Hey everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I am finally getting a third video up. Really trying to do these videos sort of as the Lord leads. And last week it felt like every time I thought about doing one, I lost the margin in my day, I lost the margin in my head, and just it wasn't worth it. So, but here we are, it's Monday morning, and I am excited to be back with you again today. I want to talk to you today about housekeeping. I briefly touched on that in the last video, and there were just some things I wanted to share with you that I think might really be an encouragement for you. I know a lot of people struggle, a lot of moms struggle with housework and feeling like it's just something that is just such a burden. It's something that is part of the curse of the fall and, all of that. And you see a lot of funny memes on that. And we can all relate to it because we don't always feel like cleaning our houses and that kind of thing. But I want to take a little different perspective today. So what do you think about my mug? Isn't that great? I love this mug. I use this mug every single day. This is a little coffee shop in Coeur d'Alene. Actually, I think it's in Post Falls. I'm not sure. It's Post Falls or Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. My daughter lives there, and we love this coffee shop. It's called Terra Coffee and Bakery. If you live in the area, I highly recommend them. They're usually playing Christian music. They have great gluten-free scones. So there you go. If you're in the area or you're visiting the area, they have several locations. Highly recommend. They're not paying me to do this. I'm doing this because I love their coffee shop, and I love going there with my family, my daughter, and my grandkids. So this is just a friendly suggestion, friendly endorsement, because I really am a fan. But this is my absolute favorite mug. I love the color, and I know. Okay, you guys, let's just go down that road. Some of you might be thinking this. There's articles out there that talk about how ceramic mugs can give off lead and different things, and I kind of went down that road for a while and got some glass mugs and some things like that, and I just finally said, you know what, I am not gonna live in fear. And I realized that that's a different line for everybody, but for me it's taking the joy out of my life, taking the joy out of enjoying this mug. And I'm not saying that I have a right to enjoy that. I'm just saying that it felt like a bit much. And so I think this is something we have to be super careful of as moms, not to go down those rabbit holes too far. I mean, it's good to be wise. We need to understand, environmental toxins and things like that and reduce those as much as possible. But at the same time, it's like God has numbered our days. And I think one really effective tactic of the enemy is he can't take away our salvation, but he can take away our joy in terms of getting us or leading us, tempting us to just not enjoy our blessings, not be able to enjoy our blessings because we're fearful and we're worried all the time. And I think this culture just feeds into that because it's a consumer culture. Like, oh, well, you don't want to drink out of that mug. You want to buy our mugs over here. And I'm not saying all the motivations are nefarious, but I am saying there's just a limit. Just ask the Lord what the limit is for you. I'm going to enjoy my cup of coffee. It is organic and it is decaf and it is sourced carefully. And that's where I chose to go down that rabbit hole a little bit more. My decaf is water processed, not chemically processed. So, you just pick your battles, pick the things you want or you feel like God is, leading you into and out of, and just follow his lead. That's all I'm saying. All I know is he doesn't want us walking in fear. So I'm enjoying this mug of coffee, and I will share my coffee source as well. Maybe not today because I want to get to the topic here. I want to drink this while it's hot. It's so good. All right. So let's talk about housekeeping. Let's talk about kind of how the world looks at it and what our perspective as believing moms probably should be. I will go as far as to say that. It's been my perspective for many years, and it's been super helpful. And more than that, I feel like it's biblical. So I'm going to just start at the very beginning, which is we're not cleaning our houses because of the fall, okay? Our work that's put before us is not because of the fall. God gave work to Adam and Eve before the fall. He gave them stewardship of the garden. So he said, here is work for you. This is what I want you to take care of. And that was before the fall. So we know that we were created for work, okay? That's why we feel icky when we don't get work done, when we aren't productive, because we were made to produce. We were made to be industrious and fruitful. So as the kids were growing up, housekeeping and house cleaning was a priority. And I know there's all these things out there, that talk about, you should, love your kids more than your house. And that is true. That is absolutely true. You want your house to be lived in. You want it to be used. It's there as a gift from the Lord to bless your family, but that's what it should be. And for me, a dirty pigsty of a house does not serve my family well. I noticed that my kids got sick more often when I wasn't cleaning as consistently. Now, I've been a consistent cleaner, but there were times I let it go for a while, and I did notice a difference. But that's not my main point. My main point is this. So as the kids were growing up, I knew that as a mom, I couldn't keep my sanity without having some order. And that is, I believe, how we were created. We love order. Like, my kids would go into the room that was clean, and that's the room they want to play in. As soon as I clean a room, that was the room they wanted to be in, because subconsciously they want order too. And so I did not go into motherhood thinking that if I was a, avid, and I don't mean obsessive, but I mean a regular cleaner of my home and a tidier of my home, that I was somehow a bad mom because I wasn't, obviously there are times when I took it too far and I made it more important than the kids, but I don't think very often. I don't think that happened very often. But again, that's not my point. My point is that we love order. We do. We love order. We were made for it. God is a God of order. That is in us to want some order. So don't feel guilty for that. All right. But how do you move forward keeping order in your home without driving your kids, right? And so let me just start there. When they were very little, I always had a routine every morning that I would get up and I would go from room to room, and we would bring order and tidiness to each room. And when the kids were little, they would help me bring order to their room. I would teach them how to make their beds so that as soon as possible, they could make their own bed, even if it wasn't perfect. Like if they have the little toddler beds or it doesn't matter. The girls had a twin bed with a day bed. And so, obviously the little ones can't push the bed back under, but they can make the bed. So the best way that I found for little ones to make the bed is to sit where their pillow is and reach down and pull the sheet up and then pull the blankets up and the comforter up. That was the best way to get it, because it's hard for them to reach. It's hard for them to maneuver all of that. Their little bodies aren't coordinated enough. So I found the best thing was put them at the top of the bed where the pillow is and have them pull their covers up. And I could help, straighten it a little bit or whatever, but I tried to, let them get as independent with that as soon as possible. My point being, I pulled the kids in to housework as soon as possible. So helping me unload the dishwasher, even a 1.5-year-old can hand you the silverware and they feel so helpful. And they are being helpful. And so even if it took a little longer, it was worth training them in these things along the way and then continuing to develop those skills. But my point is, we cleaned our house every week. Now, when the kids were really little, obviously I did it, but I had the routine, I did it. And can I just say, there is such a good feeling about knowing that your house has been cleaned each week. Now, I live in a house now that's too big to clean all in one day. I would basically spend most of the day cleaning. And so I don't like a whole day to be spent on that. So I clean a certain area, the bigger area of it, on Mondays, and my daughter does the kitchen and the bathroom. And then on another day, I do the rest of it. And that's, you can do it that way too. I went through a phase where I would take one room each day of the week, or a couple of rooms, so that Monday through Friday, every afternoon, I was cleaning a room. That worked okay when the kids were little, but when they got old enough to really do more housework, we just kept it to Saturday morning. And so what I did was, Saturday morning was like, they got up, they could have some cereal or whatever. Back when we were still eating cereal, they would have some cereal, or, just some fun kind of breakfast. On Saturday mornings, I would often just let them have cereal and not the other days of the week. And sometimes I even bought them a sugary cereal, and just for that morning. And my husband, he was like, why are you doing that? And I'm like, it's once a week. It's not going to kill him. So we would do that. And then we would just dive right into housework and just get her done, try to get it done by lunchtime. And then they were free the rest of the day, or we'd have some fun plans later on. But the housework was a priority. And they had to clean, they had to learn to clean. And so, that was just part of our life. And I knew that needed to be part of our life. And so that helped actually frame some of our family culture, with making house cleaning and keeping our house in order a priority. That had to be part of our routine, and that's part of what built the framework for our family culture and our daily routines. So back to cleaning, when I was explaining it to the kids along the way, I would say to them, okay, so we know that God is a God of order, and we know that when Jesus came, he brought order. He disarmed the powers of darkness. A lot happened when Jesus came. But even if you go back to the Garden of Eden, God gave this mandate to Adam and Eve to steward what he had given them well. It was his, but it was theirs to steward. And so I would tell my kids, this home that we have we are stewarding this for the Lord. And so we want to do an excellent job, because when we do that, we're worshiping him, and we are telling him, thank you for this home that you've given us, because things that aren't taken care of fall into disarray. And so everything tends towards chaos in this sinful world. So if you don't take care of your cars, eventually they're going to break down. If you don't take care of your yard, eventually everything's going to become overgrown. If you don't take care of your house, sickness and disease can be there, but also just lots of other things. You attract bugs and rodents and all kinds of things you don't want in your home. And so we are taking dominion over this little part of the planet that God has given us. He's given us this home and this yard or this acreage, and we are going to steward it well. And so that's how I would explain it to them. This honors God. This isn't meaningless work. And so just kind of with that in mind, I just want to share some things that I love about house cleaning. And on the last video, I shared a little bit about this, how it grounds me. And I do not feel weird about that. I think it actually grounds pretty much all of us. Some of us just may not realize it yet. So every week I have my routine where I get up in the morning. I told you last video, I make my bed, I tidy my room. That's where I start. And then when it comes to the rest of the house, the starting point, if kind of things get out of order, the starting point is the kitchen sink. Start there and I work out. And so that's just, there's something about that where you're going back to it over and over and over again. Now the world says that's meaningless because it's just going to become a mess again anyway. Yes, it is, but it is not meaningless. And for a short time, you have brought order to this, and God sees it. And it is obedience to him. It is an act of worship towards him. And so as we do these things and nobody sees it, nobody knows about it, it doesn't need to be posted on social media. It's like we're there and we're doing this work and we're doing it before the Lord. And there's nothing better than stepping back and looking at clean floors, even if it only lasts 10 minutes, or walking barefoot. I love walking barefoot on newly cleaned floors. Sometimes I'll just sit back in a chair and I'll just look at everything. It's like, oh, this looks so good. This is so in order. And so my point is not that everything has to be neat all the time, but that there is joy and there is meaning in housework. We are doing this as unto the Lord. We are bringing order to chaos. And that is more than just a job well done. There's something that goes down to the core that just gives you this sense of calm and peace. And so you have this routine, and then as life hits, and just on a personal note, in our little tiny church of about 120 people, and a lot of kids included in that number, we had a young mom who has been married for 14 months, gave birth to her first child, and this has been her dream, to be a wife and a mom, and she's just a beautiful soul, and loving every minute of this new life that God had given her. 8 days after she gave birth to her baby, she passed away suddenly. I'm not exactly sure what the cause was, but it was just something nobody knew anything about. And that's not really the point. The point is, it was a tragedy. It's a trial. It is a trial for our church to walk through this together. And I didn't know her really well, but we all went to her memorial service, everyone from the church, even if they didn't know her well yet. We all went. And it was just such a testimony of God's faithfulness. And one of the things that she would say all the time is, God is sovereign. And so you could just hear those words echoing in your heart and mind as you listened to her family talk about her and the kind of person that she was. But my point is that, and then on top of that, I have a friend whose dad is suffering, and he was actually one of my teachers, my favorite teacher. I mentioned him in both the Unhurried Homeschooler and the 4-Hour School Day. He's just getting older, and he's just got a lot of health things going on, and he's really suffering right now. So that's going on. And then my mom has a potentially fatal diagnosis. There were some people that we actually were acquainted with, homeschooling people. They were not believers, but they were just charged with murdering their 4-year-old adopted foster son. That's a lot to process. And that is a tragedy. Just my heart is breaking for their biological children and just for them. And just like, what in the world happened, So there's all these things I'm processing, and along with normal life, having a son who was recently, diagnosed with autism a couple of months ago, and having some issues that we're working through. All of that to say, this is life. This is part of living life on this earth. We're going to have struggles. We're going to have trials and afflictions. And, God has been just so graciously pouring out his heart regarding trials and afflictions. And I'm hoping to talk about that soon on the podcast. We'll see how he leads. But my point is, I go back to my routine, and I go back to my housework, and it's something that stays the same. And as I'm cleaning and as I'm bringing order to my home, there's a sense of calm that comes with it, and also the ability to be able to process while I'm cleaning and bringing order to things. And so I just wanted to share that with you, because I think we really need to rethink our perspective on housework. And again, I'm not saying the home needs to be perfect all the time, but let the housework be the blessing that God meant for it to be. It is a gift to us. And I think when we approach it that way, we're doing so with a heart of gratitude towards what God has put in front of us to do. We all have this really horrible distaste for the word duty. And yet, fulfilling duty has always been an honorable thing for generations. And all of a sudden in our generation, it's this horrible thing. I shouldn't have to do something I don't want to do. What? If you're a believer, that shouldn't even be on your radar. What does the scripture say? It says we pick up our cross, we deny ourselves, pick up our cross, and we follow Christ. He said in this world, basically there will be suffering, there will be problems, there will be stuff going on, but take heart, I have overcome the world. So we can approach these things, including our duties, with joy and with gratitude to God that we have these duties to do. Fast forward, or think about someone in another scenario. Sometimes that's helpful. Someone whose arms and legs don't work. They can't go and dust that furniture and scrub that floor and make it look beautiful. There's other things they can do, but that isn't something they can do. And so, the fact that we have arms and legs that move and we can work. This morning, I got up and I took my walk. After my time with the Lord, I took my walk, and by the time I came back, I was super energized. Felt a little bit hungry, and I thought, no, I am like energized right now. I am just gonna dive into my housework and just do it in a real, just energetic way, because you're burning more calories and it gets done that much faster. But mainly I just was pouring my energy and my heart into the cleaning, and it felt so good. And even my daughter, she's 20, she looks at me, she has all the cleaning stuff in her hands, and she's like, Mom, I love Monday morning cleaning. It just feels so good. So my kids have picked up on that, over the years, what a joy it is to have a neat and tidy home. And like I said, it doesn't have to be like that all the time, but we love bringing order to chaos. And so I just really wanted to share that with you. And when we do this housework with our kids, we are modeling to them that this is a joyful, worthwhile thing to participate in. Because when we don't participate in it, I think they could easily get the message that, oh, this isn't important enough work for an adult. We don't want them to think that. So we dive in and we do it with them. And one great thing is to have like a little carrot at the end when you're done with all the cleaning, is maybe have a fun lunch ready, or make hot chocolate, or do something fun to just sit back and let your kids point out to your kids, look at how nice this house looks. Everything's in order. Doesn't this feel great? And in that way, we can instill this love for the feeling of a job well done, and that gratification of, I did that. I brought order to chaos. And so these are the things that are so, that are just, they see the world doesn't really have a category for them, okay? But we do as believers. And so I just want to encourage you today to take maybe a different perspective on your housekeeping and recognize it for the gift that it is. Engage in it with joy, pull your children alongside of you, and enjoy your housework and keeping your home today. So I hope you were encouraged by this. I'll see you next time. Thanks for being here. Oh, just a quick reminder, if you haven't checked out my podcast, go do that. It's the Dorinda Wilson Podcast. You can find it on Spotify, iTunes, dorindawilson.com. There are over 300 and, I want to say we're at 360, 370, something like that, episodes. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to begin, go to dorindawilson.com, go to the podcast page, and at the very top, there's a search bar. There's a whole list of most recent episodes, and at the top, there's a search bar. Put in discipline, put in, chores, put in anything homeschooling related, and episodes will come up. And so that's kind of a fun way to find ones that you need to listen to. I have a great series on homeschooling boys. It's episodes 14 to 17. That's one of the most popular ones. I've got one I just put out Friday. It was, I don't remember. I do not remember. Okay, so let's see. Today's was protecting your kids from sexual abuse. Have a really great interview there. Coming up, I've got one on biblical discipline, homeschooling an only child. I'm going to do one on Well, I'm not going to tell you because if it doesn't work out, then you'll be disappointed. But there's tons there, so go check it out. And then my books, The 4-Hour School Day and The Unhurried Homeschooler, and then a devotional that I wrote specifically for homeschooling moms called Unhurried Grace for a Mom's Heart. And I will be speaking at 7 different places in the spring and summer. So I will be including that. I'll try to see if I can put it in the comments here so you can see where I'll be speaking. I'll put a link to the speaking page on my website. What else did I want to tell you? I think that's it. Thanks again for being here. I hope you join me next time. I'm going to finish this love.